The little earth pony did, in fact, exit the forest, but not into the rolling fields of Ponyville like she had expected. Instead, to her surprise, she had stumbled directly into a new town, one that was completely surrounded by the borders of the Everfree Forest. Applebloom stood there, dumbstruck by what she was seeing. The entire town was illuminated by large, pink party lanterns strung all over. To her left were multiple garden pots filled with vegetables and wheat. On the right was a long line of tables overflowing with all sorts of confections and drinks. Right in front of her stood a stallion. He was colored gray with a black mane and tail. Applebloom trotted up to him, immediately noticing his eager smile at her approach.
Well, hello there, little filly. Welcome to Sunnytown.
The stallion greeted her cheerfully. Applebloom forced a confused smile.
Thank you, but just who are you anyways?
Applebloom asked, thinking she should at least learn the pony's name before continuing.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hoof, party planner extraordinaire. You've arrived just in time, actually. The party just started. Feel free to help yourself to anything. Make yourself right at home.
A party?
Why, yes. Today we're celebrating the town's founding anniversary. You're more than welcome to join us too. Have some food and drink. Enjoy yourself.
Greyhoof never broke his smile the entire conversation, and it disturbed Applebloom slightly. She wished to ask more questions, but Greyhoof turned away, cutting her off. He trotted over to a stool by a pole to tie up more lanterns. Applebloom's eyes went wide as she got a look at his flanks. He had no cutie mark. Hundreds of questions started buzzing in Applebloom's mind as she took a step back.
Why doesn't he have a cutie mark? Is that even possible? This guy looks almost as old as Big Macintosh. There's no way he could have gone through all that time without finding a special talent, could he? And look, he's really good at parties. Shouldn't he have a cutie mark for that like Pinkie Pie?
Applebloom shook her head, deciding to ask Greyhoof more after she figured out just where in the woods she was. She turned to the tables, looking at the cupcakes as her stomach growled loudly. She hadn't had anything to eat since the park. Not being one to snub hospitality, Applebloom nabbed a cake from one of the plates and took a big bite. Applebloom sputtered as she spit the pastry out. It may have looked decadent, but it tasted like mold and dust. She quickly gulped a glass of punch, trying to wash away the awful taste. The punch was bitter and flat, like it had sat for years. She threw the cup to the ground in disgust. Out of the corner of her eye, Applebloom noticed another pony sitting on the ground near her table. She was looking off toward one of the houses with a longing expression, her orange mane shadowing her white face and giving her a mournful appearance. At first, Applebloom thought she had upset her with her commotion, but she was soon corrected.
He hasn't said a word to me all night.
The pony sighed, looking longingly to the side. Applebloom said nothing. What could she say? She didn't know who he was. Applebloom followed the new pony's line of sight, spotting a home where a cream-colored colt with a blue mane was sitting atop a stoop.
Ah, that must be he,
she thought.
Why don't you just go talk to him then?
Applebloom offered. The mare looked up at her.
Oh, no. It wouldn't be proper.
The mare responded with a hint of distress in her voice, almost as if doing that would break some law. She reminded Applebloom of Rarity.
What do you mean? Can't you just go say hi like a normal pony?
The white mare shook her head, drooping back down.
You're too young to understand.
Applebloom stamped a hoof in annoyance. She hated being told that. If this one wasn't going to talk, maybe the stallion would. Curiosity forced Applebloom to peek at the white pony's flank nonchalantly before moving on.
No mark again. Strange.
Applebloom approached the cream-colored pony. He gazed up at her with the same longing look as the last one.
Oh, hello,
the stallion said with a deflated demeanor.
Hi, who are you, and what's wrong?
Applebloom got right to the point.
My name is Roneo, and... see that mare over there?
He pointed a hoof toward the white pony from a moment ago.
Her name is Starlet, and I was planning to give her a gift tonight, but somehow I lost track of it. now it's lost somewhere in town, and I won't be able to give it to her. It was so pretty too.
Roneo trailed off, sighing and hanging his head. Applebloom rolled her eyes at the pathetic stallion.
She seems to want to talk to you. Why don't you just go say hi?
Oh no, I couldn't do that, not without the gift.
But she just told me she wanted you to talk to her. I'm sure she doesn't care about a crummy old gift.
Please, don't toy with me. Starlet is the classiest mare in town. A plain pony like me doesn't stand a chance with her unless I bring a trump card. Please, leave me alone.
Applebloom wanted to press further, but the stallion wouldn't respond. With a huff, she walked off deeper into town, leaving the lovesick and markless pony to wallow in his grief. Perhaps she'd come back later if she felt like it, but for now she wanted to see more of the town. Applebloom passed by a few more groups of ponies, all of them enjoying the party. But something wasn't right though. Every single pony in this town appeared to have no cutie mark. Applebloom wanted desperately to know why. She spotted another stallion standing alone near the town's well. He was light brown with a tan-colored mane. She galloped up to him. He wore a smile on his face similar to Greyhoof's.
Excuse me,
Applebloom tried to ask nicely.
why don't any of y'all have any cutie marks? This whole town is full of blank flanks.
The stallion chuckled to himself as he regarded the little pony.
Cutie, what's it? I really don't know what you're talking about, little one. My name is Gladestone, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Gladestone spoke with the same weirdly happy tone as Greyhoof. It made Applebloom uncomfortable. It almost felt like this happiness was forced, as if the stallion was trying to hide his real emotions. Applebloom stared him down, stretching her little legs to try and seem tougher and bigger.
Oh, come on. You know what a cutie mark is. It's the mark every pony receives when they find out what makes them special. Don't none of you have them here?
Applebloom's pride was starting to get the better of Gladestone. Beads of sweat were forming on his brow as his eyes darted away from her for a moment.
Nope. Can't say I've ever seen any pony here with a cutie mark.
The cheerfulness in Gladstone's voice cracked at his last statement.
What does that even matter anyway? Come on, have some fun, it's a party after all.
With that, Gladstone turned tail and galloped away, ending Applebloom's interrogation. She watched as he ran for the safety of a herd of ponies by a table. Before he could slip away completely, Applebloom noticed something strange in his flanks. It wasn't a cutie mark though. It was more like a nasty burn or gash. Applebloom's brow furrowed with a mix of frustration and contemplation. She moved on, new questions now needing answers as she spotted another lone pony. This one was colored green, with dark green hair and was sitting by the edge of the forest. She looked, earthy. Applebloom decided this time she'd be less direct as she trotted up for questions.
Hello, I'm Applebloom, and I didn't know there was an entire town of ponies living in the middle of the Everfree Forest.
She forced a smile, trying her best to seem as innocent as she could. The green mare giggled and patted Applebloom on the head with a hoof.
Well, you're not the first visitor to say that, little one. My name's Three Leaf. We just got about everything we need here in our town, so we rarely ever leave. Visitors are so nice when they manage to come by through, and they too rarely leave once they arrive. How are you enjoying it here?
Three Leaf seemed to be really nice, so Applebloom continued.
Oh, you guys are all so nice, and the food was delicious.
She lied.
But I was wondering, I couldn't help but notice none of y'all have any cutie marks. Why is that?
Cutie marks? What are those?
Three Leaf tilted her head, smiling quizzically. Applebloom sighed, her efforts wasted.
Oh, never mind.
Applebloom decided to drop the question, expecting to receive the same response as before. Instead, she moved to a new one.
How about that feller?
She pointed to Gladstone.
What happened to his flanks?
Three Leaf's happy demeanor held, but Applebloom noticed her eye twitch ever so slightly.
Oh, Gladestone? Well, you know, he's very clumsy.
Three Leaf's ditzy air had faltered into an anxious stammer. Applebloom scowled at her as she stumbled on.
Oh, yes, he was fixing the old well in the outer rim of the town. He's probably the best repair stallion we have. But he slipped and cut himself on a jagged rock in the wall of the well. He bled quite a bit, but thankfully some pony found him. He couldn't walk for a month.
Three Leaf finished, her face returning to a goofy grin.
He's a good repair pony, huh? Then why hasn't he gotten a cutie mark for that?
Apple Bloom didn't miss a beat. Three Leaf seemed to shrink from the question as Apple Bloom gave her a penetrating glare.
And what about those visitors you mentioned earlier? Did they all arrive here without any cutie marks? I highly doubt it.
Through the barrage of questions, Three Leaf had been continually backing away from Apple Bloom, the little filly stepping forward each time to close the distance. Now, Three Leaf had been pushed to the forest's edge, her back pressed firmly against a trunk, with all remaining air of silliness completely gone. The green mare's eyes darted back and forth, taking a moment to look around. With a hefty sigh, Three Leaf motioned Apple Bloom closer and spoke to her almost at a whisper.
Look, you won't like what might happen if you keep digging. The curse marks are evil, and no one in the town is allowed to discuss them. I could get in trouble for ever mentioning them to you.
Oh, Freeleaf, would you mind giving me a hoof with these party lanterns, please?
Grey Hoof had appeared out of nowhere, carrying some more pink lanterns on his back. His face held a smile his eyes didn't share. Three Leaf immediately stood, backing away from Apple Bloom.
Of course, Greyhoof. Think nothing of it. I was just talking with our little visitor here, but we can always continue the conversation later.
Three Leaf mumbled weakly, following Grey Hoof away. Before they got out of sight, Apple Bloom clearly saw Grey Hoof staring daggers at Three Leaf. She hoped she hadn't just gotten her into too much trouble. Sighing, Apple Bloom wandered over to the well in the middle of town. Hopping onto a rock near its base, Apple Bloom slumped onto the well's edge in despair, having even more questions than she knew what to do with now. What the hey were curse marks? Is that what this town thought a cutie mark was? A curse? Apple Bloom was sure that had to be the correlation. Curse mark? Cutie mark? The two sounded far too similar. There was no way this town could have been inhabited by only blank flanks. Some pony in the town had to have gotten a cutie mark at some point. But what became of them? She began to wonder what the town might have done with ponies who found their marks. Seeing as they called them curse marks, she couldn't imagine the reaction was good. Maybe they sent them away? Forced them to roam the Everfree Forest forever and not let them come home? As more and more questions continued to churn in Apple Bloom's little mind, her eyes wandered to the water of the well. Even at its great depth, the water sparkled with the light from the party. Glistening rays struck the well's walls from the pool below and danced for the little filly. It soothed her, and her mind quieted. A stray beam of light made something red flash at Apple Bloom. It was close to the top, glinting again as Apple Bloom leaned down. She reached out a hoof, stretching out her foreleg as far as it could go without slipping. She just barely managed to snatch the small object, giving it a tug. It broke loose, and Apple Bloom went tumbling off her perch to the ground.
Huh? A ruby?
Apple Bloom marveled at her prize as she sat up. The small gemstone immediately began to sparkle and shine in the light. It felt rough and huge in Apple Bloom's little hooves. Had this just been growing in the side of the well? As Apple Bloom rubbed off some of the damp dirt in the stone, she felt a twinge course through her spine. Suddenly, she felt dizzy. Her vision began to spin as shadows and light enveloped her. A gray pony with a blonde and gold mane sat in front of a small vanity. She brushed her hair, looking down at a little box. Putting down her comb, she reached for the box, lifting its lid to reveal its contents. A couple of marbles, random rusty coins, a large metal bolt, and a tarnished bobbin. The box was full of junk. Only to her, it wasn't junk. These were her treasures, all the things in this box she had found, hidden, and stashed around town in the most unusual of places. Now she had one more to add. She reached a hoof into her tail, tugging out a large red gem. The jewel sparkled in the candlelight as she smiled at it. Her friends always told her that she had a knack for finding the most bizarre objects, and noticing things no pony else would have even bothered with. A knock came on the door. The mare quickly stuffed the gem in her box and closed it, turning.
Hello. Can I come in?
Come on in.
The cream-colored stallion opened the door and stepped meekly in. The mare greeted him, and he returned it with a jerky nod.
So what's going on?
Oh, well, I wanted to say thanks for the other day. You telling me to say hi to Starlet. That is...
Roneo turned his gaze to the floor. The mayor chuckled.
So it went well? What happened?
Roneo's nervous manner changed dramatically at the question.
Oh, it was nice. I said hi, and she said hi back. We walked a little bit down the street, and she mentioned she was going to the town anniversary party. I said I was thinking about going too, so she said she'd love to see me there. She said, love. Do you think she likes me?
The mayor had to laugh further Roneo's sudden rush of words.
Well, maybe. You like her, don't you?
Yes.
Roneo spoke longingly, his eyes lovesick.
Then all you gotta do is spend a little more time with her. If she likes you back, it should show.
She paused, looking at her box. She smirked and popped the lid open, grabbing out the red stone she had just put in it.
And this will give you a little boost.
Hopping off her chair, the mayor walked over to Roneo and placed the gemstone in his hooves. Roneo looked at the gift, stunned.
You're just going to give this to me? To give to Starlet?
Sure. It's just something I found laying around town. It's no big deal. Give it to her at the party. She'll never expect it.
Roneo's eyes lit up with joy. He thanked her and lavished her with praise as he exited. He took one final bow before leaving, renewed pep in his step as he prepared for his next encounter. She giggled again, sitting back down at her mirror and taking up her brush.
Good at finding treasures? Now good at finding friendships.
Apple Bloom was staring up into the night sky over Sunnytown. That vision had taken a lot longer than the last one, and she wasn't sure how long she had been out of it. No pony seemed to care that the little filly had just been lying there on her back in the grass. As she sat up, Apple Bloom lifted the ruby up again, turning it over. Three Leaf had warned her to stop meddling, but now she had a clear path to take. So what was she going to do? Apple Bloom imagined how her friends Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo would react if they had been in her place. In her mind, she heard them scream out,
Cutie Mark Crusader Detectives! Yay!
Apple Bloom smiled to herself. That's just what she'd do. She'd dig deeper and unravel this mystery. Surely some pony in this town would give her a straight answer eventually. And how much trouble would she honestly get into?
Oh my goodness, you found it! You found my gemstone!
Roneo leapt to his hooves as he spotted the ruby in Apple Bloom's mouth. She placed it by his outstretched hooves.
Yeah, here, you can have it back.
Thank you, thank you, thank you!
Roneo praised Apple Bloom, grabbed the gemstone in his mouth, and galloped over to Starlet immediately. The white mare looked overjoyed just to be in the stallion's presence. Apple Bloom clearly heard her shout of joy even from this distance as Roneo presented his gift to her. The pair crossed their necks against one another, embracing. Apple Bloom smiled at the two knowingly. Now that she had successfully delivered the lost gift, she wondered what she should do next. Apple Bloom was just about to leave when a sound caught her attention. A weak sobbing noise was coming from inside the house Roneo had been sitting in front of. Apple Bloom looked around to make sure no pony was watching, and slipped inside without a second thought. The door clicked shut as Apple Bloom stepped into her new surroundings. This new place, unlike the party outside, was dimly lit and was very unkempt. Boxes of various sizes were stacked up around the walls, sheets were draped over most of the furnishings, and the whole house lay still. Apple Bloom took a few more steps inside, straining to hear anything.
Hello?
She called out to the empty house. In the utter silence of the house, Apple Bloom could clearly hear the weak whimpering coming from above. Spotting some stairs near the back wall, she made her way up to the next floor. As Apple Bloom peeked over the stairs, she found the upper floor held only one long hallway. At the end sat a single door. A shadow moved behind the threshold. Apple Bloom trotted down the hall, leaving small hoof prints in the dust on the floor. Grime-covered picture frames and paintings were the only decor on the hallway as Apple Bloom reached the end. She wasn't scared, but her heart rate was rising, the spirit of discovery driving her forward. She knocked on the door, the shadow behind it suddenly freezing up at the sound. She listened and waited, and waited, and waited. No response from the other side. Apple Bloom knocked again and was startled by the sudden yell that came from the other side.
Go away!
Apple Bloom recovered from her shock and faced the door again.
No, I ain't leaving till you talk to me.
Apple Bloom yelled back.
I don't have anything to say to monsters like you. Leave me alone. You're all cursed and evil ponies.
Aha! I knew something bad must have happened here.
Apple Bloom announced this more to herself rather than the stranger behind the door. She beamed in triumph as all her snooping was validated. The thing behind the door had fallen deathly quiet, but judging by its shadow, it had pressed itself against the door.
You don't sound like any pony from outside.
The voice sounded much calmer than before.
That's 'cause I ain't.
Apple Bloom called back. The door swung open lightning fast as a pair of gray hooves snatched Apple Bloom up. Before she could even comprehend what happened, Apple Bloom was dragged inside the room, and the door shut behind her. The sudden and unexpected shift scared the little filly, and she opened her mouth to scream. She was swiftly silenced by the same hoof that had pulled her in. Through muffled protest, Apple Bloom beheld her captor. A gray mare with a deep, maroon mane. Her eyes held a look of both surprise and worry, but were swollen and sagged. It made her look utterly exhausted. Though Apple Bloom had never met this pony before, she couldn't shake a sense of familiarity about her. The room they were in was a bedroom holding only a twin bed and a bench before a vanity. The mare leaned in close and looked Apple Bloom square in the eyes. The two sat for what seemed like an eternity before the gray pony broke the silence.
What do you think you're doing here?
The gray mare's eyes narrowed as she released Apple Bloom from her grip.
Wait, what?
The question threw Apple Bloom's train of thought, leaving her to babble an incoherent response. The gray mare clutched Apple Bloom by her shoulders.
What are you doing here?
Her voice was growing stern and angry.
I'm looking for answers about this town. I came here following some pony out there in the woods. Who are you anyway?
Apple Bloom barked out her answers, throwing questions right back at the mare. This caused her to release again, shock now the only emotion on her face.
You followed some pony.
The mare trailed off, a strange look on her face. She sat there in silence for a moment, her eyes scanning Apple Bloom up and down, then darting to the window and back. Apple Bloom was watching her, trying to figure out where she knew this pony from. The mare spoke again cautiously.
Who exactly did you follow here?
Some pony with a golden blonde mane. She had a gray coat like yours, but her eyes were all golden and glowy, too.
Apple Bloom blurted out the answer, not thinking about it.
So, she's the one who led you here.
The mare stood up and walked toward the window. She didn't speak further, simply staring outside. Apple Bloom wasn't sure how to react and was still trying to nail down just who this pony was. She started thinking about the memories, recalling the past she'd already glimpsed. The mare spoke again to her, this time with a quiver in her voice.
So, do you know who I am?
Apple Bloom thought back to that first encounter of the joke fields, and then it hit her.
You're Mita, aren't you?
The mare crumpled at this, her legs quivering as her shoulders shrank forward. In one fluid motion, Mita collapsed to the floor in a torrent of sobs. This took Apple Bloom completely by surprise as she ran forward to Mita's side.
Oh my gosh, please stop crying. I didn't mean to upset you.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
What ain't fair?
All of this. The same thing happening again and again and again. It never ends.
Apple Bloom had no idea what to do. Mita continued to lie there and cry, each sob making Apple Bloom's heart ache for her more and more. With no other options available, Apple Bloom did the only thing she could think of. She wrapped her forelegs around Mita's neck and hugged her. Mita took a deep breath, surprised at the sudden embrace. Apple Bloom felt Mita try to push her off, but she couldn't muster the strength. It was strange, though Mita looked like any normal pony to Apple Bloom. Her coat and skin felt icy cold and oddly soft. Finally, Mita's sobs slowed to a weak whimper as Apple Bloom released her.
Why would you even come here?
I don't know. I guess it was just curiosity.
Applebloom admitted. Mita's eyes had finally dried and she stared at Applebloom. She just sat there and stared, like she was looking into her very soul.
What the hey happened in this place? Why are you locked up in here, and why did you start crying just then?
Applebloom never broke eye contact with Mita as she asked the questions. Mita remained quiet, a sliver of a tear dripping from her eye again.
Please, please don't make me. It's too hard to tell. This whole ordeal is my burden just as much as those monsters outside.
Please, Mita, you can tell me. I want to know.
No, you shouldn't. I can't.
You don't have to be alone in all this. I know others outside these woods, and I can bring them here, and we can help you.
Applebloom tried to offer her comfort.
No!
Mita practically leapt onto the little filly, pressing her face against Applebloom's in utter terror.
Whatever you do, don't lead any pony else here. They'll be lost to this town just as we are.
Mita suddenly shrunk back from her own warning, acting like she had just said something taboo. Applebloom countered by getting right back in her face.
Y'all keep saying stuff like monsters and curses and losing ponies to the town. What does all that mean? Why can't I have an explanation?
Mita regarded the little filly and took a moment to think. To Applebloom, it looked like the very thought of explaining things hurt her. With a heavy sigh, Mita took a seat once more.
First, before I tell you what I can, why did she bring you here?
Do you mean the other pony with the blonde mane?
Yes. Why you? Why now? She knows bringing any pony here puts them at risk, so why?
I don't know.
Applebloom shrugged. If this was some kind of trick question, she wasn't doing a good job figuring it out. Mita took another deep breath.
This whole problem started with her, on that horrible night.
Mita began to explain.
What night?
This night. The night of the town's founding anniversary. This town's been here much longer than you could imagine, and it's all from the curse.
Okay, so what's that?
Applebloom's question made Mita stop talking. She took a deep breath and looked to be fighting back a few tears. Applebloom tried to keep her going.
Did something bad happen?
Yes, something bad. Something very, very bad. And the forest didn't like it.
Mita stopped again and closed her eyes, her face drooping. Applebloom looked puzzled.
Hold your horses. The forest didn't like it? I don't get it.
It's always been an old legend that the Everfree Forest exists as it does because it has its own special kind of magic, right? Even when our town was founded near its edge, we couldn't have possibly known how far its influence stretched.
Whoa, are you telling me this town wasn't originally an Everfree?
Applebloom asked excitedly. Mita nodded.
We weren't the only town either. We had a sister settlement about a few days' trot to the north as well.
Is that town still there too? Did they believe in curse marks?
Mita took another deep breath as Applebloom asked more questions.
Curse marks. Yes. That's where the whole rumor started. The ponies of the town were scared. Something awful happened to that neighboring town. It all had to do with the curse marks.
But they ain't curses. They ain't even called curse marks. They're called cutie marks.
Applebloom protested.
Cutie marks? I never heard of them called that before, but I'd be inclined to believe it. Those marks seem no more a curse than the bow on your head to me. But you see, our town used to trade and interact quite a bit with our sister village. And then one day, that all just stopped. No pony came or went from there anymore, and the villagers started to get worried. The council sent a small group to investigate, but all they found were ruins. The scouts asked outside travelers if they had heard what happened, and each time, they got nearly the same story. It always starts with some pony in town getting a mark on their flanks. They started performing amazing feats and skills related to the picture. Then they got another, and another, and another. Each mark made them do more crazy and death-defying feats, but caused great damage to the town and its residents. Worst of all, the marks started spreading to other ponies, and soon everyone was covered head to hoof in the terrible things. As the story goes, They worked and performed themselves all to death, completely destroying the town in the process.
Mita halted her explanation, rubbing her eyes again with a hoof. Applebloom simply sat there, wide-eyed at the story.
Our council members were horrified by the story, so they made sure everyone in town knew about the curse marks. They made every pony fear them greatly, made sure no pony would end up with a mark on them, lest they be punished.
But so, what happened when some pony did get a mark?
That really doesn't matter.
Mita dodged Applebloom's question, staring at the floor somberly.
Just because of what happened and because of our discretions, because of our stupidity and fear, we anger the magics of nature itself. The forest came alive with rage and destructive forces, and her fate that night was the flame that sparked it all.
So then, what kind of curse do y'all have now?
Surely you can take some guesses, little one. You've been amongst the others out there, the ones who brought this all on us. Can't you see the patterns?
Applebloom was having trouble following all of this at once. The question made Mita raise her head and open her eyes, this time pointing Applebloom toward the window as she got to her own hoofs. Mita waited as Applebloom looked outside. She saw all the party ponies eating and drinking and having fun. Starlet and Roneo were nuzzling near the well, and she also spotted Greyhoof dancing near an old record player. As far as she could tell, nothing looked to be out of the ordinary.
I'm sorry, but what am I looking for exactly?
Applebloom asked for a hint.
Time.
Mita raised her voice in frustration.
Time is non-existent in this town. This party has been going on for hours, right? Ponies have been eating and drinking all night, so how come the tables are still as they were when you arrived? All the candles on the kegs haven't even lost a drop of wax yet. You surely have talked with some of them, haven't you?
Well, yeah.
Applebloom responded.
And what did you think about them?
Mita pried.
Well, most of their answers felt kinda rehearsed. Like they knew what I was gonna ask before I asked it.
Almost like they're empty inside?
Yeah, kinda like that.
That's because they are. Those ponies out there, they all had their souls stolen, taken by the curse of the Evertree Forest. This party never ends because this curse has stolen the life of this town. We are all cursed into everlasting limbo here, reliving our last night again and again and again. Your hours pass by to us like seconds, whole years, merely days. A never-ending torture.
But how can everything in the town look so normal then? If y'all have been here for so long, shouldn't everything be crumbling and rotten? And if all this is true, how do you know about all this?
Mita froze at Applebloom's question, her face looking scared. She bit her lower lip and turned her gaze toward the door.
There's something else at work that keeps this town untouched by time, little one. An evil working in the darkness. I simply can't tell you.
Mita choked up on her words near the end, almost as if trying to explain further would hurt her.
Wait, you still haven't told me why you're different from them.
Applebloom pried further. Mita looked like she turned paler than she already was.
I really don't know.
Tears began to well in Mita's eyes as she talked.
I don't know why I still have my memory. For some reason, the curse didn't take my mind like it did the others. Maybe it's my own personal hell. My punishment for failing to protect her.
Mita looked like she was about to start sobbing again, but Applebloom kept pressing.
Please, can't you tell me more?
No, I can't. I simply can't. Please, for the sake of your friends and family, just leave.
Mita stood and pushed Applebloom toward the door, tears beginning to fall from her eyes.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm not done here. I still got more questions.
Applebloom protested as she was pushed out into the hallway.
No, little filly. No more questions. You don't want to know the truth lurking behind this town's facade. Just leave. Run home. Never look back. And leave us to our well-deserved fates.
With that, Mita slammed the door shut in Applebloom's face. Applebloom could hear a loud slump behind the door as Mita's sobs began again. She angrily stomped a hoof on the floor in protest, sending a cloud of dust floating into the air. Apple Bloom coughed and wheezed for air as she stepped out of the dust cloud. She stopped near an old photo frame just as her nose began to tingle. In one massive sneeze, Apple Bloom blew every bit of dust clean of the frame. Sniffling and wiping her nose with her hoof, she looked up at the picture she'd revealed. It was a photograph of two fillies, maybe only a few years older than Apple Bloom herself. Both were gray, but each had a different mane color, one red and one golden blonde. Apple Bloom immediately recognized the pair. It was Mita and her mystery pony friend. They looked so happy in the picture. Clearly they had been best friends. Apple Bloom stood on tippy hoofs to try and get a better look at the photo. Without warning, the blonde mare's eyes suddenly lit up with light, sending Apple Bloom falling to the floor.
Come quick! Something happened to Gladestone!
The familiar gray pony with a blonde mane galloped down the stairs, almost tripping in her haste as she skidded to a halt by the open door. Mita was standing there, motioning for her to look outside. Gladestone was being led away through the town square in shackles. The gray mare looked like she wanted to run out to meet him, but Mita held her back.
No! You can't interfere. They'll try you just like him if you do. What are they doing to him, though? What has he done? I don't know all the details, but some pony told me he was in the clinic and that the nurse went to dress his wounds, and then there was a loud scream.
The filly grabbed Mita on the shoulder, pointing her other hoof at Gladstone's tail end.
Look at his flank! What is that? Oh no. I think I heard about these from some pony once. The elders call them curse marks. Gladstone. He must have gotten cursed!
The gray pony frowned, taking another look at Gladstone before he was led out of sight.
I don't know. I think it looks kinda cute on him. What? You can't be serious. Who cares what it looks like? It's a curse! I'm just saying I don't think I buy it. Why would something that looks so innocent be cursed? I'm going to go find out what's going on here. No, you can't do that. If they catch you, I'm not going to stop them. Then that's your decision, but I'm still going regardless. I have to find out.
With that, the mare shrugged off her friend and trotted out into the street. Many ponies littered the path, all trying to get a glimpse of what was going on. The gray mare used this to her advantage and weaved back and forth through the crowd. She felt it necessary to be discreet. The ponies pulling Gladstone might not like having some pony following them. A nearby colt bumped into her, making her stumble, her golden mane falling into her eyes.
Hey, watch where you're going.
No response, no apology. Her mind was focused on more important things. All around her, she heard the rising voices of onlookers as the procession pushed through town.
They say it all happened at the old well last night.
I heard it happened after he went to the clinic.
What's wrong with that pony, Mommy?
Don't look! He's cursed! You'll be cursed too!
The mare snorted as she trotted by the last gossiper. She didn't believe any of these rumors or claims. The crowds began to thin as Gladstone was led to the cabin near the edge of town. The captors and prisoner entered and locked the door, leaving the gray pony outside in the dark of night. A moment of doubt passed her as she contemplated spying on them, but something in her gut pressed on. The mare snuck behind the house and climbed up onto a box to peer through the window. The mare saw many ponies standing inside the cabin. She tried to listen against the glass, but they spoke in hushed tones. Gladstone was still chained near the fire while 6 others stared at him in the shadows. They talked amongst themselves, then asked Gladstone something. He seemed distressed and confused. A moment later, another gray pony, a colt, struck Gladstone across the face with his hoof. He was yelling something, but the ruckus garbled it. She strained to see what was happening inside, the burning fire the only light source in the whole house. A drop of light rose from the fireplace, bouncing along in the air. She thought she saw metal in the gray colt's mouth, deducing he was holding a fire poker. Gladstone wailed in pain as the hot poker pressed against his flank. The mare let out a gasp as smoke rose off the charred flesh of the poor colt's flanks. Gladstone buckled to the floor from the pain. The mare shrank away from the window, horrified at this gruesome display. Her thoughts raced. What was going on inside? What exactly had she stumbled into? Oh, she needed to warn ponies, needed to tell others what was going on. Suddenly, a flash of light shone bright behind her, startling her and sending her tumbling to the ground with a thud. Through blurred vision, she saw some pony standing over her, and he was shouting something. Apple Bloom's head was spinning, her vision slowly returning as she climbed to her hooves. As the little filly regained consciousness, she was surprised to find herself standing outside. Her head hurt, and there was a dry taste in her mouth. Had she been running? Up until now, she hadn't budged while having these memories. This time, though, she seemed to have traveled quite a bit while unconscious. Cautiously, she felt her chest and head with her front hoof. That last memory felt so vivid, she could have sworn she had taken the blonde pony's place. She looked around her new surroundings, familiarity taking hold of her as she realized she was where her recent recall had taken her. Some of the scenery had changed, but the general area looked all too familiar. In front of her sat a dirt path leading through a line of trees. The opening was shrouded in darkness. She looked back to the thicker parts of town. The party still raged behind her. Yet, this part of the town she now stood on lay oddly still. Apple Bloom knew her chase was nearing its end. The little filly puffed out her chest, steeled her nerves, and stepped into the dark woods once more. The shadows of the trees engulfed Apple Bloom as she followed the path into the woods. The glow from the town's lanterns illuminated the exit she had taken, but the rest of the thicket was dark. Only sparse illumination from the moon above managed to pierce the canopy in places. Apple Bloom trotted forward carefully, trying not to lose the path in front of her. Soon, the glow from the town had vanished into the distance, and the filly's whole world became shadows. Suddenly, a flicker of golden light zipped between some trees in the distance. Apple Bloom stopped dead, scanning the trees and listening. In the far-off distance, she could just barely hear soft laughter.
Come on, Slowpoke.
The golden light shot past Apple Bloom, flying deeper into the woods. The little filly galloped after it, swerving around corners and jumping over roots in her way. She kept seeing glimpses of her culprit, but couldn't seem to catch up.
Keep going. You're almost there.
It almost sounded like a taunt. This drove Apple Bloom to even greater speeds. She rounded another line of trees, skidding to a halt as her path ended. In front of her sat a large cabin nestled between the trees. All signs of the ghost seemed to have vanished as Apple Bloom crept up to the house. It looked like it was abandoned, but as she approached, Apple Bloom detected a faint light coming from within. The windows were shuttered, and Apple Bloom couldn't see through them. She tried the door. Locked. How was she supposed to get inside? She wandered around the house and discovered a crumbled well. In its prime, this well might have resembled the same one within the town. Apple Bloom saw flecks of red on a particularly jagged stone on one side of the crumbled structure. She reached out and rubbed it with her hoof, a sense of familiarity washing over her. Apple Bloom's ears twitched as a loud clicking noise came from around the corner. Abandoning the well, Apple Bloom galloped back around to the front door. A faint glow faded off the doorknob as the filly approached. She jiggled the knob with both hooves, discovering the door was unlocked now. An eerie, creaky noise came from the hinges as the door was pushed open. Apple Bloom did not let that deter her. She boldly marched inside the house. Empty. The entire house was empty. No pony was home, not even ghost ponies. The old floorboards groaned under Apple Bloom's weight. The entire place was coated with layers upon layers of dust. The only remarkable thing to speak of was at the back of the room. A fireplace, fully lit and crackling. Apple Bloom sighed and coughed as she accidentally inhaled some dust. After all this time, a dead end. Really? She walked over to the fireplace and sat in front of it, thinking to herself.
Nothing. All this for nothing. I thought for sure I was gonna find the answer in here, but nothing. Nothing but this fire.
Apple Bloom sat upright as her eyes fell upon the fire. The logs inside looked like they had been sitting there a long time, longer than they had any right to be. Underneath, wedged within the hearth, was something white. Apple Bloom leaned in closer, the heat of the flames making her brow sweat. There were a lot of these white things, and they looked like they made some kind of shape. Applebloom stared at them, realization slowly creeping over her. The whole fireplace was filled with bones. Her small heart quickened, the beating amplified by the stillness of the house, as she was lost to the darkness again. Applebloom's eyes slid open. An orange glow flickered to her right as she looked around. She felt her gaze slip to her hoofs. The soft gray of her coat was marred by the ugly brown rope that hogtied her. She tried to speak, but her voice was muffled by a rag tied to her mouth. Her vision went wild, searching for some kind of help as strands of blonde mane fell into her eyes. Through her bangs, she could spot shadowed figures standing across the room. They were all looking at her.
This can't be happening. First Gladestone, now this one. It's only a matter of time before the whole town ends up like these two. We need to find a way to stop these marks from spreading.
Well, it seems these marks can't simply be burned off. Our watch who spotted her said this mark appeared on her just moments ago.
It's a curse after all. Remember our scout stories? Maybe it sensed our intentions to destroy it and jumped from Gladestone to her. If this curse can multiply, it could jeopardize the whole town. It could even infect one of us if we don't stop it soon.
She saw them all shiver at this notion. One of them walked over to a table. Panic-stricken, she wiggled her hooves again, trying desperately to free her knots. Her mind raced with fear.
Then it seems we don't have any more options, Gentle Clops. We'll have to stop it right here. Right now.
And how do you expect to do that, Grey Hoof? We don't have any unicorns in our town to remove the magic.
I expect that we should just have to remove it directly from the source then.
She watched as the stallion grabbed hold of something in his teeth.
Grey Hoof, you don't honestly intend to...
Can you think of any other way? Because I can't. And we're running out of time.
She watched as the other ponies regarded their options, all nodding in unison after a time.
Make it quick.
A flash of silver light caught her eyes as Greyhoof took a step closer. She tried to plead with him, but could only manage muffled screams. Tears streamed down her face as the object drew close. Her heart raced, panic gripping her at what was coming. She closed her eyes, whimpering and praying with all of her soul. It was quick, but the pain that accompanied was unimaginable. Her vision was fading as she felt sticky liquid pouring out of her. She managed a gurgled scream, but it served no purpose. It was already too late. She could feel lungs pulling one last breath, trying in vain to hang on.
Please, forgive these dark acts we've done.